Grace Point. Hey, y'all. We're glad you're here. What's up? Good morning, good afternoon to if you're online in a different part of the world. We're glad you're all with us today. Y'all want to stand with us? Help us sing. God is with us. God is for us. You know it. God is on our side. Just because we're breathing, because we're human, it's not an us versus them thing. He's not on our side or any other side. Just because we're human, we're alive, we're connected, we're all accepted, and God is on our side. Let's sing it. Maker of eternity, right here and now. Creator of all that we see, with us somehow. I cannot explain such mysteries. Who could ever know what this all means? God of the universe, all around. Come on, sing. God is with us, God is for us, God is on our side. Let all who are here join the chorus. God is on our side. Everything is gonna be alright. God is on our side. Oh yeah. Giver of every breath, breathing in us. Heartbeat of life itself, waking us up. I cannot explain such mysteries. Who could ever know what this all means? The visible image of God is our love. Yeah, that's right. Come on, sing it with us. God is with us, God is for us, God is on our side. Let all who will hear join the chorus. God is on our side. Everything is gonna be alright. God is on our side. And all of creation is joining the sound. Let liberation explode from the ground. Lift up your voice, make it loud. All right, here we go. God is with you, God is with me, yeah. God is on our side. All right, you know it, let's sing it. God is with you, God is with me, God is on. Look at somebody next to you, say it. God is with me, God is with me, God is on our side. One more time, God is with you, God is with you, yeah. God is with me, God is on our side, yeah. God is with us, God is for us, God is on our side. Let all who will hear join the chorus. God is on our side. Everything is gonna be alright. God is on our side. Oh, God is on our side. God is on our side. Yeah. That's good. Y'all sound great. You look great this morning. Glad you are with us. What we'd love for you to do is take a minute right now, and maybe somebody next to you, maybe somebody across the room, if you're feeling really brave, have a conversation, introduce yourself. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Hello, Grace Point. Right now? Okay. Hi, my name is Emily Wire, and I am the Director of Operations here. First, we can go ahead and dismiss kids. Yeah, follow Audrey. Yeah, okay. Can we take a moment to say hello to our online community? They're on the cameras. You can just wave generally to the ceiling. That works. Everything that I am about to talk about, you can scan this QR code that's on the screen, and it will take you to a link tree, and you can, see everything that I'm talking about. Common Ground, which is our group for 30, 40-somethings, meets today right after this service. They're going to the Lipstick Lounge, so they'll probably be there about 12:15. Dennis and Judy Bentley are collecting winter items for the homeless through the Eyes of Love organization. Murphy Gill, so lovely. He wrapped a little snowman, like gift wrapping on that box back there. That's where you're going to drop the items. They're asking for blankets, winter hats, gloves, coats, jackets, sweatshirts, boots. If you have any of those items that are new or gently used, then they will take them. So you can bring them to church next Sunday or the Sunday after. So you've got 2 weeks, 2 opportunities to do that. The online campus is hosting a meet and greet on Friday, November 17th at 6 p.m. You can join them and you can get to know people in the online community. I think they're going to do like icebreakers, get to know you questions. So it'll be a nice time. There's a Zoom link on the website. Mark your calendars for November 26th. That's the last Sunday of this month. We're not doing a gathering in person or online. This is to give the staff a break, to give everyone a break, because you'll probably be traveling for the holidays. So just make sure you don't show up. And there also won't be a live stream, but I'm sure you can catch something that you missed sometime in this past year. It'll be great. Grace Point's goal is to create a safe, affirming, and transformative community. To those who already financially support us, thank you so much. You can text any dollar amount to 84321. You can go to gracepoint.net/give, scan the QR code, or Venmo us at GracePointTN. Thanks.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah. How's everybody feeling today? We're good? Good. Y'all want to stand back up with me, please? As you're standing, let's ground ourselves today. Hopefully everybody's ready for Christmas because, it is that time of year. It's November, which means it's Christmas. Oh, I'm getting no's.
Not yet. We got to do Thanksgiving.
I know. We love Thanksgiving, but it does need to be celebrated within the context of Christmas, to be honest. I'm just kidding. However you celebrate, you are welcome here and loved no matter what. Let's all take a big, deep breath in and let it out. Yeah. That feels good. We've got a song that we want to sing. Me and Murphy are gonna sing this. It's called "The Kingdom Is Yours," and wherever you are in the world, you're here, obviously, with us in Nashville, but the context of this song is just a reimagining of basically the Beatitudes, the blessed are that Jesus talked about, and whoever you are, the kingdom is ours. We get to share this great big table, and blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who suffer, who mourn, all those things. Let's sing this song together. It's a really beautiful song. Blessed are the ones who do not bury all the broken pieces of their heart. Blessed are the tears of all the weary, pouring like a sky of falling stars.
Blessed are the ones who wounded mourning. They're brave enough to show off all their scars. Blessed are the hurts that are not hidden. Open to the healing touch of God. The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope will be restored. Peace will come again.
Blessed are the ones who walk in kindness, even in the face of great abuse. Blessed are the deeds that go unnoticed, serving with unguarded gratitude.
Blessed are the ones who fight for justice, longing for the coming day of peace. Blessed is the soul that thirsts for righteousness, welcoming the last, the lost, the least.
Let's sing it together.
The kingdom is yours. The kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope will be restored. Peace will come again.
Something we love to do at Grace Point is gather around the table, the elements, communion. It's a time that we choose to celebrate, not with any statement of faith or anything like that, but just an acknowledgement of our belonging. So we want everybody to know that you've always belonged, you belong right now, and you will always belong. So that's why we do communion, and that's why we celebrate. So we're going to be passing the elements throughout the aisles. If you are gluten-free, need that option, there are those in the back. And feel free to participate when you get it. We have something that we love to read together before we take communion. So let's all read this together. Come to this table, you who have much faith, and you who struggle with believing. You who have been here often, and you who have come for the first time. You who are at peace, and you who feel despair. We are all part of the human family, and there is a place for us here. Christ invites everyone to the table. May this bread and wine unite us all. Amen. You can participate.
Blessed are the ones who suffer violence and still have strength to love their enemies. Blessed is the faith of those who persevere. And though they fall, they'll never know defeat. The kingdom is yours. Kingdom is yours. Hold on a little more. This is not the end. Hope will be restored.
Amen. Thank you. You can be seated. Thanks, y'all. I do too. Can we thank our band? Yeah. How's everybody doing? How many of you just feel better about the world, knowing nothing out there shifted? You just got an extra hour's sleep last night? Anybody else? They robbed it from us, and we took it back. And I feel great because of that. So before we jump in, a couple things. First, just want to say thank you to everybody who made the Fall Festival happen last week. During this hour last week, we had our Fall Festival, and it was incredible. Yeah, that's... So whether you donated, whether you volunteered, whether you just showed up and judged people's chili, like Ricky, the winner of the chili cook-off, it was not a rigged election. Just because he's on staff doesn't mean we rigged it. It was a fair and square win. So our conspiracy theory revolves around chili. So thank you all so much for that. And I just want to say a couple more. One about the last Sunday of this month. We're calling it a Breath Sunday. And usually what we do on that particular Sunday is we have an online-only gathering. And that still takes a lot of energy and effort to produce during that big holiday week for our team. And so as we thought, hey, we're progressive Christians. You know what we can do? We can just give everybody a day off. And so if you still feel like, I really, really want something, we have a YouTube backlog of like 3 or 4 years since the pandemic began. And so you can go back and catch up on something. You can meet God in the stuffing. I don't know, however you'll do that, but we'll be back. We'll be back. I saw Jesus' face in a bowl of stuffing. It was the craziest thing. But we'll be back the next week, and Advent begins the next week. So we'll begin the Christmas season officially. But I agree with Ricky. I'm on team November 1st, 'tis the season. So that's where we are. And then, did everybody have a good Halloween? Yeah. Great. It was cold, which I love. It was a good time. The day after Halloween, November 1st, is known on the Christian calendar as All Saints' Day. And it's sort of this day of remembering and recognizing the meaning and impact of those who have passed on, who are part of what Scripture calls our great cloud of witnesses. And when I think about that group of people in my own life, my great cloud of witnesses, I realize that there are people who are meaningful to me and make up that great cloud who, if they were still with us, we would be having regular conversations about where I went wrong. And yet, there is something about what I'm trying to do, what we're trying to do, which I think deeply honors their memory, which is we are trying to pay attention and move forward. And so I thought maybe it would be nice to just take a moment for whoever those people are for you. I just want to offer a prayer of gratitude for their lives, the people who taught us to love well, the people who instilled hope in us, instilled courage in us, whatever the gifts they have given you were, and to just acknowledge what they mean, because we often don't do that enough, I think. So let's just pause for a brief prayer and we'll jump in. God, we gather today acknowledging that great cloud of witnesses, the people who shaped us, the people who instilled love, taught us to be compassionate and kind humans. We acknowledge that it's perhaps true that if we were to sit down now and have a conversation, we might not see the world the same way, and yet their impact on us and what they taught us during their time here, so grateful for. And may we also realize today that at some point we will be part of that great cloud of witnesses for someone. And so may we seek to leave behind an example of paying attention, of being alert, of growing, of changing, of thinking about things differently, of following the truth where it leads us. May we do well during our time here so that we may leave an example, not of where they should be, but the trajectory they should head. We are grateful, and I'm grateful for this community who continues to push forward and believe that all is not lost and there's hope
and the world can become a better place. For that, we're truly grateful. And everybody said, Amen. So we have 2 weeks left in our series, Crash Course on Progressive Christianity. This series, as I keep saying, has not been exhaustive. We haven't said everything that could be said. There's a lot more that could be said, but it's almost Christmas. So we're going to wrap it up this week and next week. Next week is just a question and response day. So, and there's a couple key things about that. One is the question part, which is going to come from you and our online community, I hope. And then the other part is I'm not committing answers to you. I don't have them often. I'm committing responses. Because answers assumes that we can do that, right? That we can give a definitive answer on something when what we're dealing with here is mystery. And so I want to just acknowledge that. And we're also today, what we've been doing is I've been talking less and opening up for conversation. We'll do that today. But next week is like a free-for-all. Whatever you want to ask about progressive theology, any of that, I would love to hear. So if you're not going to be here, feel free to just email your question or questions in, josh@gracepoint.net. Don't forget the E on the end of GracePoint. You'll be here even if you aren't, and you can watch it back later, and we'll try to respond to as many of those as we can. So, in this series, we've just taken this approach that many of us know what we can no longer believe or no longer affirm, but do we have something positive to say? What can we say about our faith? And we've been through quite a journey. We began this series with what we said was sort of the main difference, the big difference between the conservative theology lots of us grew up with and inherited and a progressive theology, and that is this idea that we are not born separated from God, that we are born inherently united with God. I think one of the moves of unhealthy religion is always to give you a solution to a problem you never had. And I think that's so much of what we've inherited. We've inherited a religious system that's trying to tell us how to find connection with the divine. And we never needed that because we've always had it. What we've needed the whole time is awareness. And we did not inherit a religious system that helped us be aware of that. We inherited one that taught us the opposite. And so that's where we began. We talked about the importance of Jesus for us. We've talked about it being an inclusive community. We've been through all sorts of good territory. Today, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of holding a Christian identity that is meaningful and deep for us, and how we do that in the context of a world that is becoming, that has always been, but is becoming even more religiously diverse. Like how do we hold on to our Christian identity in a multi-faith world? And I'm drawing a lot from a book that was very helpful to me. It came out several years ago, maybe over a decade ago, a book by our friend Brian McLaren, Why Did Jesus, Moses, the Buddha, and Muhammad Cross the Road? Christian Identity in a Multi-Faith World. It's an incredible book. If you're interested in this topic at all, I would highly recommend Brian's thoughts on it. But so what we're going to focus on is how do we do that? How can we be Christian in a world where not everybody's Christian? How can we do that in a way that's good for the world? And I think that it's true that broadly, that conservative Christians and liberal progressive Christians have kind of each fallen into a little bit of a pitfall in the way we see our identity in the scope of the rest of the world. And for our more conservative siblings, they have a strong Christian identity that is often hostile to others who aren't Christian. I feel like I don't even need to explain that. I feel like that's an experience many of us have had, right? And it almost seems like the stronger the Christian identity, the more hateful and hostile it is to people who are outside of it. You ever met somebody and you thought you knew them before they became a Christian and then you knew them after and you liked them better before? I've known people and I'm like, the worst thing that happened to you is you embraced a religion. And I think it's possible that the stronger their identity gets, sometimes the more hostile it gets to the outsiders. And even if we do act nicely to people who aren't part of our tradition, through this lens, it's often just a ruse, right? Anybody ever been in that situation where you befriended somebody who was non-Christian in order to try to convert them to Christianity? Anybody else just totally mortified and embarrassed about that? Shane, I thought you had a question for a second. Shane's got his hand up back there. No, I agree. I mean, I can tell you there were times when in my earlier days, especially in high school, where I would try to befriend, we would go to youth group and we would talk about our friends who weren't Christian, and then or the people we knew who weren't Christian, then we'd all go try to make friends with them. It had to seem the most bizarre Stepford thing these people have ever experienced in their life. Like, all these kids from this particular youth group suddenly decide you're worth friendship. And the whole point was to try to convert them, for them to see the world the way we do. I think it's helpful to think of religion, at least it is for me, to think of religion, the various religious traditions, to think of them like languages. right? Every religion is its own language. And within each religion, in each language, there are dialects, right? So if we gave the microphone to somebody right now and they were from Boston and they started talking, you would know they're from the Northeast. Just like if we were somewhere else and they gave us some of us a microphone who were from the South, and we started talking, they would know. My mom has such a thick holler accent still to this day that when she's on the phone with people, like a telemarketer, somebody calls her and she's on the phone, they'll ask her, where exactly in the South are you from? They just know, right? So not only are there languages, but within language, there are dialects. There are different ways, different parts of the world, different parts of the country who speak English. They say things differently. They have different expressions. If you were to bring somebody who speaks English and they're from Britain, and you bring somebody who speaks English and they're from America, first of all, the British people would think we're not doing it right, and they're probably right. It is their language. And bring them together, it's going to sound different. They're going to call like cookies biscuits, and we're going to be confused. To all of our British friends out there, we don't understand this one. Right? It's just dialects are different. That's how it all works. So from this lens, the way this, from a strong Christian identity that is hostile to others, if we were to use this language metaphor, we would say this is akin to people being who would loudly demand that everybody around them speaks American. Right? Like if you're not speaking our language, you just need to go somewhere else because this is the language we speak in America. And it's really kind of hostile. It's not embracing. It's not open. It's not, maybe I could learn a little of your language and you could learn a little of mine. It's just this line in the sand demand that you be like us. And for a very long time, this has been a dominant posture of Christianity in the world, which is you need to convert to our religion or else. Or else we'll make your life harder, but God especially will make your life harder. Because if you don't convert to our religion, and I always think this is funny because there are like 40,000 Christian denominations. So which one are you asking people to convert to under the pain of eternal conscious torment? Like, really? But this is the way we often approach it. This idea of our language is the best language. Here's the thing. English is the most comfortable language for me. It's the only one I really know. And yet I can hear the beauty in other languages. I mean, other languages actually, to be frank, can sound a little more beautiful at times. I'm so familiar with mine. Hearing somebody speak French can just be like, oh, wow. Hearing someone speak Spanish can be so beautiful. So there's this strong identity that sort of exists in hostility to others and wants to make everybody else like us. And then there's another approach, and this is the pitfall, I think, on the progressive liberal side of Christian things that we can sometimes fall into, and that is a weak Christian identity that is benevolent and hospitable to others. Right? It's this identity where we almost minimize we almost minimize our Christian identity to celebrate other identities, which is one of the, I mean, I get it, right? It's a way of showing respect and deference to other traditions and beliefs. It means we're not going to try to convert somebody else. We actually want to learn from them. But in the process, sometimes we end up watering down and muddying our... Does anybody else have this experience? Sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm a Christian, but I don't know what that means and I don't know what to do with it. And one of the critiques often that people will make of progressive Christianity, of liberal Christianity, is that we don't really stand for anything and that we're a little bit wishy-washy. That conservative Christians stand for stuff. And I don't think that has to be the case. I actually think that we can maybe not have to minimize our own identity, and we can also still celebrate others. If we go back to the language metaphor, this would be learning to communicate in other languages, but being embarrassed about our own mother tongue. And I get it. There is a lot of, when people use the word Christian as a blanket word, there's a lot to be embarrassed about to distance ourselves from, right? This is why when I'm on an airplane and somebody's like, what do you do? How do I lie to this person but not lie to this person, right? There's a certain amount of like, is it possible that we can own our identity in a beautiful way without it being the thing that people think now the conversation has been shut off? And I'll tell you this, there was a period of time when I was like 18, 19, I grew up deep in Appalachia, and I was really embarrassed to have that accent, and I worked really hard to lose it. And what's interesting is the older I get, the more I'm actually comfortable with that accent, because that accent is not a reflection of anything other than where I grew up. And these are the people that taught me to speak. And so, of course, I used to be able to control it until key moments when I was excited or scared or nervous. And then I stopped saying the word light and started saying light, right? Or I was, we used to give my dad a hard time because he would try to pronounce the words correctly. And we used to make fun of him when I was a kid. And then I got older and I was like, I get it. And now I don't get it. Hearing people speak my dialect actually makes me feel connected in a way. It makes me feel like, oh, there's somebody else from where I'm from. So I don't think we have to be embarrassed about our Christian language. I think what we have to do is we have to be honest about our Christian language, and that the language that this tradition has done a lot of good things in the world, but it's also caused a lot of harm and pain in the world. And one doesn't negate the other, right? Building hospitals is a beautiful contribution to the world. Harming people is a terrible contribution to the world. Both exist in the same reality. And I do love to learn to communicate in other languages. I took 2 semesters in high school and 2 semesters in college of German. Why? You may ask. I don't know. I just ended up there. I was a very unmotivated student. I just kind of went where they put me. Didn't really care. I just wanted to get done. And so like right now, I know enough German to do a few things. I can forcefully declare that it's windy. And so if I'm ever in a place with a lot of Germans, I hope to God there's a breeze, because that would be so much fun to see how they respond to it. I can ask how much the book costs, the workbook specifically. I can sing a little bit of Silent Night, and I can sing this 2 other songs. One is My Hat It Has 3 Corners. No. And I can also sing a little bit of I'm a foreigner and I don't speak very good German. Those are the things I know. And the curse words. I can curse like a sailor in German. But as I've grown up, like being able to interact, like I have friends who speak Spanish, and being able to learn words and be able to just even clumsily be able to just recognize what they're saying, or that they're saying a thing I know, or I know just enough American Sign Language to say a few things, and I can fingerspell some things because I know the alphabet. And that has not threatened my use of the English language at all. It's actually enriched me as a human being. I've come to appreciate the beauty in other languages, and I like to communicate in the rudimentary way I know how to in these other languages. I think it's such a gift. But do I have to stop speaking my language, the language that, because English is my mother tongue. If I stub my toe, I curse in English, right? If I pray, I typically will pray in English. That's my language. Is it possible that I can speak my language, but not in a way of hostility toward others, but in a way that recognizes the inherent beauty in their language? And at times we teach each other some phrases. Is that possible? I think it is. I think it's possible to have a strong Christian identity that is hospitable to others. And by strong, I mean this. It values the language and symbols of our tradition. The story of Jesus feels like home to us. That's true for me. It may not be true for everybody in this room, and that's totally fine. For me, the Jesus story feels like home. When I'm thinking about the big questions, I think about it through this lens, or through my understanding of the Christian tradition, through my lens on the Christian tradition. I think it's possible to hold on to that, to say, you don't have to sing the song, but I am a C, I'm a CH, I'm a CRISDIN. Like, I am one. And yet, I think it's also possible to recognize and make space for the gifts of other traditions. In some ways, I think that they actually, when I'm engaging with people of other faiths, in some way, it makes me appreciate my own. And as they're sharing their treasures with me, and they're asking me about, well, what does your faith think? What does your faith believe? I can dig into the treasure trove of Christianity and share, well, here's some of our greatest hits. Here's some of the good things we actually bring to the world, the way of seeing that we actually bring to the world, the way we think about God, the way we think about this Jesus person. I think all of that can be really beautiful. And we don't have to feel the pressure through this understanding to convert anyone, except for maybe conservative Christians, but that's a whole other thing. Like, I do secretly kind of want to convert them, like offer an altar call for them to come. I don't know, but there is a little, but for people who aren't Christian, right? Like, I have no desire to go to a Muslim person or a Jewish person or a Sikh person or somebody in polytheistic religions. I have no desire to go to them and say, this is the one you should pick. Because maybe it would be like telling them, whatever language is your mother tongue is bad, you need to speak mine. And that's just not helpful, and it's not being a good human to other human beings. I think the goal is for all of us to bring this beautiful gift of our language and to teach one another and to share with one another and to learn from one another so everybody gets to flourish and thrive together, both within their tradition and by playing well with other people. So basketball season is here, and my son's 8th grade basketball season started this last week, and we went to our first game on Thursday evening. And on Thursday night, we went to a game in the town I pastored in before I came to Grace Point. And so my son had a game there. And so we went, and we saw a bunch of people we knew, and there's this moment during the game when we were beating them soundly. I need that to be out there. We were winning, and a kid on the other team who we had known since he was born, and now he's in middle school, he did something good, and Carla started cheering for him. And my instinct and impulse was to do this. What are you doing? So I'm cheering for Owen. It's like, Owen's wearing the wrong shirt. Why are you cheering for Owen? She's like, we've known this child since he was alive. I think it's okay to cheer for him at a basketball game. It's like, okay, as long as you're still rooting for us to win, we can make an exception for this one kid. But you realize how silly that is, right? It's okay they're all little kids. It's okay to cheer for the kids. It's okay to celebrate when it does not threaten her allegiance to our team or to our kid by celebrating the goodness that she sees in someone else. And I think we need to learn that within the Christian tradition. We've talked about this before, but I think it's really important to just say we should deconstruct the idea of the Great Commission. You know that at the end of the Gospel of Matthew, when Jesus says to the disciples, go into the world and make disciples of all nations. Here's what I don't think Jesus was saying. Hey team, starting a new religion. We're going to franchise everywhere. I want you to go out and convert people. And when you convert them, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take this system of belief we're going to create, and you're going to go in and you're going to colonize them, and you're going to take every good thing away from them and just leave them with what you give them. So you're going to take their land, you're going to take their wealth, you're going to take their ability to produce food, you're going to take everything from them, and you're going to give them the Bible. And then you're going to go and do that everywhere you go. I don't think Jesus was saying that. I don't think Jesus was saying everybody needs to convert to this religion that doesn't yet exist or they're in big trouble. I think the Great Commission is Jesus' way of saying, as you all go out into the world and you're forming these communities of sharing and generosity and justice, there are going to be people. Remember, he's talking to an exclusively Jewish group of disciples at this point. There are going to be people from outside your tradition who are going to want to be part of this. Don't stop them. Make space for them, welcome them, invite them in, be hospitable and kind to them. Let them be part of your family. I think that's what Jesus was saying. And sadly, for generations, Christians have used that text as a proof text to do all sorts of awful things in the world. It's the source of things like the doctrine of discovery, where the Pope essentially said, Christians can go, and wherever they go, if there's somebody who's non-Christian, they can take their land, they can reduce them to enslavement, they can do whatever they want to them, because we're the people of Christ. And I think if being the people of Christ causes us to behave in ways that are clearly un-Christ-like, that maybe we should rethink what we're doing in the world. I don't think that's what Jesus is up to. No, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying all religions are the same. That would be a disservice to every religion. To say, well, Christianity and Islam, they're saying the same thing, and Islam and Judaism are saying the same thing, and Hinduism and Buddhism, they're all saying kind of the same thing. We're all really not saying the same thing. If you've ever talked to anybody in any tradition, you know that we have different ways of talking about things, different ways of seeing things. And so I'm not saying that. But there's this metaphor from Marcus Borg that I love, and he says, if you imagine that there's this big mountain and its peak is stretching into the clouds and it's hidden from us, at the base of the mountain where we're all sitting, Christians and Muslims and Jews and Hindus and Buddhists and Sikhs, and we're all around this mountain, and we're about as far apart as we can get in some ways. But the more we ascend the mountain, the more we move beyond our doctrines and dogmas, the more we ascend the mountain and get in touch with our humanity, the more similarities we do see emerge. because we're all talking about this mystery, right? I mean, that's what religion is. It's in some ways, it gives us symbols, it gives us ideas, it gives us a way of talking about mystery. How many of you had God figured out what the word means? Just what the word means. I'm not asking anything else. What does this word mean? No, we don't. It's up there, not literally, figuratively in the mystery. And yet our religions, our languages are the way of trying to put, and so we often speak in metaphor because sometimes there are things that can only be even approached through the language of metaphor. The closer we get, the more that our differences begin to melt away. And we can hold on to our distinctives and yet realize we're all talking about this reality, this mystery that is beyond what we currently can fathom. Think about the idea of the golden rule, right? That we should treat others the way we want to be treated. It's almost in every tradition universally. Now, either the people who were writing these texts all got together and said, listen, we need to find one thing in common. How about we treat other people like we want to be treated? Boom, that's it, let's write it. Or there's something in us that is hardwired to this understanding that when we treat other people the way we would like to be treated, the world goes better. And that the opposite is true. The more we treat people in ways we would not like to be treated, the worse things get in the world. I think you could make a case right now. So here's the thing. Maybe this is the way to evaluate whether or not somebody's politics are good. Is your position on this particular issue, is this how you would like other people to treat you if roles were reversed? And if it's not, then maybe you should let it go. Maybe this should be one of the litmus tests for a doctrine or dogma or theology is would you want someone holding this exact position but about you? And if not, maybe we let it go. Because maybe the best way to be human is to treat other people with kindness, empathy, and compassion. And there's this other word that sort of sums all that up, and that would be the word love. Maybe that's what we're here to do. I think it's possible. I'm getting less and less embarrassed of being a Christian. But I'm wanting to be more and more specific about what kind of Christian I'm trying to be. And my hope is that communities like ours can begin to help shift that for people. That there are ways of being Christian that are not bound in exclusivist, hateful, anti-affirming, bait and switch theology that is harming people. That there are ways of being Christian that do not wind up with you being a Christian nationalist. That there are ways of being Christian that don't make you want to force your beliefs on every other person around you. That there are ways of being Christian where we show up and we sit and say, teach me to some other language, some other tradition, and we learn from it. And then maybe they invite us, teach us. And then we share the treasures of the Christian tradition, which are not who's out, but the celebration that everybody's in. Everybody's included inside the big love of God. I think it's possible to have a strong Christian identity that celebrates what Jesus means for us, but that does not then go to Muslims and Jews and Hindus and atheists and agnostics and whoever else maybe and say, you have to see this like we see it. Have we talked about human flourishing here ever? I wondered, because I think that's actually the point. And I think to make that a reality, for us to really become the kind of planet that I think deep down, many of us long to be, it will take all of us working together, bringing the treasures of whatever our belief system is, the goodness of it, and sharing it and creating a world where everybody gets to flourish. Not just people who wear our label, not just people who believe like we do, but everybody on the planet. Because if it's not good for everybody on the planet, maybe it's not good. And if something good in our faith, something good for us in our faith, ends up being bad for the rest of the world, it's time to let it go. Are you with me? Yes. All right. So let's do this. We have a good amount of time. Let's do some question fun. So online, in person. Does anybody want to break the ice? Pretend like the first thing's already been said. Stephen.
So I have a question. Obviously, so I have a challenge. I'm one of those thinkers that thinks of good responses.
We want the online people to hear this question.
Thank you. So my question is kind of about personal grounding. So as an analytical thinker, I think of responses and I appreciate your articulate words of this subject of being hospitable and inviting others in. So when I encounter people, I want to create that space and invite them in. But then there's people who come into that space that I don't really have words to respond to, and I think about them like a week later after the event has happened. But
this reminds me of a Seinfeld episode. Go ahead.
So I'm just curious, what are, and maybe this is an experience share, this isn't a theology thing, but what are ways that if you don't have, or if you feel you don't have that personal grounding or the language to express when there's resistance and conflict as you're trying to create that hospitable environment, what are ways that you can stay grounded through that difficulty? Because that's certainly a challenge as you navigate shifting from, one understanding to a new one in creating that space.
Yeah. Hey, Stan, do you want to come up and have fun too?
Maybe.
You need a microphone, but feel free to come up.
I'll let you know if I feel inspired.
Okay. So here's what I would say. First of all, the idea that you have to wait, that sometimes the response comes to you later, isn't a bad thing. There are some of us who wish the response would come to us later and not in our most sarcastic, which is where I often find myself. So I don't think there's a bad thing about thinking about what you're wanting to say. I don't think everything has to be responded to in the moment. One of the gifts that Brian McLaren gave me once was saying, sometimes when people say something in conversation and I just totally disagree with it, and they'll say something and want something in response from me, I'll just say, wow, I see that differently. And that's it. They're like, well, how do you see it? Just, we'll talk about it later. And I don't know, what do you think? No. Come up here so people can hear you.
That's not it. Never thought of it that way. That was good. Go ahead. I think for me, which Josh and I have talked about this a lot, one of the questions that I would throw at you is a religion named after a person. Does that religion have some responsibility? Because there's lots of people who like Jesus, feel influenced by Jesus, live like Jesus, but don't call themselves religiously Christian. Mm-hmm. Does the Christian religion have some mandate? Is there an onus on us to discover, to mine, to articulate, and then to live out the original intent of Jesus? Did Jesus want a religion named after him?
I think he would be mortified.
Really? You think so?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's the $1 million question, because I think so many of us are at a place where the thing that really moves us, I'm still deeply moved by the life of Jesus. I think in Jesus, I talk in Jesus, and it's like there's this inverse correlation. The more moved we are by Jesus, the less moved we are by anything called Christian.
Yeah.
And that's not even a knee-jerk for me, because I'm a sentimentalist and I still call myself a Christian, still love the church, still love organized religion. I'm going to get a T-shirt that says, we've joked about this, I'm not spiritual, I'm religious. I believe in religion. Religion is just the corporate nurturing. But, do you think that we really can define and articulate an original intent of Jesus and live that out?
That's the challenge of when you look at anything in the ancient world. Even if you're just studying the Bible, you look at the Bible and you say, what was the original intent of the author? We can guess, right? We can do context work, we can do all of that and try to figure it out. So I think I can get to something in my mind, which would be that original intent, or not far removed. I don't think we'll ever be able to do that as a monolith. You'll never get every, because if I were to sit down and describe Jesus, and some of us were all to talk about, we would be describing, if you brought in somebody and said, just draw what we're describing, or write out what we're describing, give us a characteristics of this person. It would be a little different for probably every Christian you talk to. And so are we talking about, like, we describe 2 billion different people, or are we actually getting to, but I do think you're right. I think that there is some figuring out, like, what does it actually mean? What was Jesus up to? What was his actual involvement in the world? I don't think it was to be anything other than a faithful Jewish teacher leading a movement. I don't think he intended to start a new religion. But where I also end up with that is that the religion exists. And this is why when people are like, well, if you don't believe in the basic, what some people would say, the basic tenets of Christianity, right? The creeds. If you don't affirm the creeds, why even be Christian? Because if we just go over here and do our Jesus thing, but we loose ourselves from this broader tradition, then where will the conscience of the tradition be?
Yes, and I think that's critically important. Houston Smith talks about religious capital and a shared capital. I don't wake up every morning thinking that I want to help people be Christian. I wake up every morning with a sense of wanting to relieve suffering and to elevate peace and joy. And the language of the people that I'm expressly working with, 90% of what I do is working with Assembly of God, Southern Baptist, Church of Christ, Nazarene, Church of the Brethren, Wesleyan, Evangelical, and Catholic, and now Mormon Christians who come from conservative backgrounds who are suffering because of this clash, this collision of their gender, sexuality, and their faith. And they don't want to live. I've got 3 intensive this week. 2 of the kids that I'm doing intensive, and I say kids, late teens and their families, are recently out of the hospital from attempts that fortunately didn't work on their life. So I want to relieve suffering. The language of the people that I'm working with, the spiritual language is Christianity. That is a shared capital. I would be very ineffective if I didn't share that language with them. So I think you could almost gloss over it, but the fact that you just said, but the religion does exist, is critically important and does not need to be dismissed. It exists, it's here, and could the world have done without it? We can argue that all day long, but it's here.
It's here.
And is there capital there, and is there work still to be done within that? Or a lot of my friends who've moved on, our friends that have moved on beyond Christianity, think that we're essentially trying to redeem something that's irredeemable. We're forever working in something that just needs to be done with. And yet I don't think that's the case. And even if it were the case, it's not going to be done with. It is
right.
It is the language. So
that's right. And I think, part of that relieving suffering for some people, and this would be a big difference between somebody from the conservative world than us. For some people, for us to help relieve suffering is to help them have hospice care for their faith. Like their faith is going away. How do we help them do that in a dignified way? And even if, John Shelby Spong famously had the book, Christianity Must Change or Die. But even if that's the case, it's not going to die pretty if it doesn't have a conscience and have some voices saying, we cannot continue to harm actual human beings and just say the Bible says, so that makes it okay. And so, I think for me, hanging on and insisting, no matter how many times they say we're Christian, I feel a moral responsibility to stay Christian, not because it's the way to God, but because of what happens in the name of Christianity that I want to push back on.
And if Christianity dies, I believe more in the life that Jesus lived than I've ever believed in my life.
That's right.
And I would look for other ways to cultivate that even communally, because that life deeply moves me.
That's right. Yeah. Christianity, no Christianity. Jesus is the thing. Yeah. Yes.
Hey guys. So I've been around for a minute, but I kind of just chill back here. I grew up in the franchise of church, and I've seen things, been told things, and I'm coming up on my 26th birthday, and I'm having this anxiety of not meeting the goals of what I've been raised to believe and know. And I don't know, I just feel like other people need to have this question vocalized as well, regardless of gender. It's like, when you're walking into the last half of your 20s, which is really just a crash course into adulthood, this whole decade, in my opinion, how have you seen that turn in your life from having an identity, losing an identity, regaining one, but actually being who you are rather than what you're expectant to be, but also what you think you should be?
Yeah.
But that's a heavy, loaded question.
That's so good. I'm going to try. There's so many things I want to say in response to it. First, I would say it's important to remember, as the great poet Mary Oliver once said, things take the time they take. And so you talk about feeling a responsibility almost to expectations. Even if you no longer believe those are the expectations you should feel a responsibility toward. There are times when I'll end up talking to somebody, let's say they're 50, 60, 70, even I've talked to people in their 80s who are new to a faith shift and who will say things like, I just feel like this should all be changing quicker. And there's still this tape that plays in my head that says I don't believe this anymore. And yet it keeps saying all the things I used to believe or that I taught or that were implanted in me. And my response to them is always, how long were you raised with that tape? Now, how long have you been deconstructing it? And it's usually like, I've had this in my head for 58 years, and I've been deconstructing for 2.5. Might take a minute, because that gets so deeply ingrained that even if you don't believe it's true, like anybody, you're sort of in the deconstruction process, you no longer believe in the rapture, but you can't find people for a minute. And you're like, but is it? You know what I mean? Like that, the body holds on to all that. It holds on to it. The body keeps score. It holds on. It doesn't let go. And so some of that is just about time. I mean, I can tell you this. My faith journey deconstruction process has been the better part of 30 years in earnest, the last 20-some, right? I am just now at the point where some of those tapes no longer play. And given the right set of circumstances, they might. So I think the greatest gift I've ever been given, I was talking to a therapist once and was going through all the things, and he said, you should just tell yourself the truth about that. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, do you believe all that stuff is true? I was like, no. He's like, well, you can't stop this. But what you can do in those moments is go, oh, no. I know what this is. This is my entire life up to this point. It is what has been taught to me from the moment, for many of us, from the moment we come into this world, we're having these ideas about who we are, about who God is, about how good and perfect and pure God is, and about how awful and nasty and depraved we are. And then we grow up with that. We grow up under that sacred canopy where they're just continuing to throw this into us. And so being able to say, here's the thing, I know, in the core of my being, regardless of what the tape playing says, is I know that every single human being is a beloved child of God. And when people throw back, well, but what if you're wrong? If I'm wrong, it is not because we went too far. I've said this a lot lately. It is because we haven't yet gone far enough. And so I think it's this coming back to when everything feels all, you ever been to one of those trampoline parks? Sometimes, like when it's time to go, but my kids don't think it's time to go, and I have to go out there to get them. You want to see what a giraffe would look like on a trampoline? Just follow me around at one of these things. And I always feel great about when I can get to that middle section that's a little solid and not bouncy. And I think that telling yourself the truth means sometimes it's going to feel like this, but it's one of those recentering moments where you can come back and find a little bit of firm ground and go, I know who I am. I know that I'm a beloved child of God, that I am, regardless of how it may feel in the moment, I am connected and united with God. And if we can begin to reframe it from that space, and not the external voices that just live here, I think that's a beginning point. That's been helpful for me. I don't know, do you have anything? Anybody online, Adam? No, okay. I'm happy to talk more about that, by the way, because that's a good question that requires a little more than a soundbite. Anybody else? Okay. So last thing, a reminder, next week is just this. So if you have questions about Jesus, about the Bible, about theology, any of those things, feel free to bring them. If you're like, I do not want to talk in front of a room full of people, just email them, josh@gracepoint.net. We'll make sure you get represented. If you're not going to be here, email them. We'll make sure you get represented in the conversation. Has this been fun for you, this series, doing this thing? It's been endlessly fun for me, so thanks for doing it. Let's pray real quick, and we'll sing our last song. Thank you. Wonderful. God, just unbelievably grateful. I feel unbelievable gratitude for this community and for the beauty that we hold. That we are a community made up of people who are Christian, who are atheist, who are agnostic, who are from all sorts of different backgrounds, who have gathered together around some values that matter to us, values of love and inclusion and compassion. At the same time, we look at the world around us and realize that there's a lot of problem in the world. There's a lot of pain. Things get really topsy-turvy really quickly. May our love be steady. May our generosity be ever-growing. And may we, through the way we love one another and the world around us, with non-judgmental, non-coercive, compassionate love, may we reshape some of this narrative around the tradition we love. We are grateful for this Jesus who inspires us. We offer this in his name, and everybody said, Amen.
We're together in this. Sure, we've got our own politics. Sure, we've got our own religions. We're still together in this. We're together in this. Sure, we've got our own set of problems. Yeah, we've got our own things we want to change. Still together in this. And I'll carry your weight, neighbor. You'll carry mine. We'll leave the battle far behind. Let love and peace become all that we need. Oh, we're still together in this. We're together in this. So put away your blood and your violence. Rest in solitude and in silence. 'Cause we're still together in this. I'll carry your weight, neighbor. You'll carry mine. We'll leave the battle far behind. together in this. I'll carry yours, you'll carry mine. We'll leave the battles far behind. I'll carry yours, you'll carry mine. We'll leave the battles far behind. I'll carry your weight, neighbor. You'll carry mine. We'll leave the battle far behind. Let love and peace become all that we need. Oh, we're still together in this.
Amen. Grace Point. Thank you so much for being with us today. We love having you, love seeing you, catching up. We hope you have a good week, and we'll see you back here next week. Bring your questions, your thoughts, your ideas. We love you. We're proud of you. Have a good one.